May 24th, 2006, Sofia Coppola comes out with her film Marie Antoinette. It is a modernized portrayal of the French royal family, a quasi-feminist historical drama that follows Marie Antoinette from her marriage to Louis XVI to a few years before her ultimate beheading. In a Vogue interview, Sofia Coppola said she was making a film she was passionate about, that after Lost in Translation, she could finally make the film she really wanted to. Since then, other directors have said similar things. Martin Scorsese's 2000 Silence or Guillermo del Toro's recent film Pinocchio were both projects totally born from passion and reliant on the director's past successes. Guillermo del Toro probably wouldn't have gotten the backing for Pinocchio if he hadn't been so successful with Pan's Labyrinth or The Shape of Water. Why am I saying this? I'm saying that Marie Antoinette was Coppola's little baby.
Got intrigued with the 18th century, I think.
It was just a challenge to make a period film for me. How do I make a period film and not just fall into the genre of period films, but make it in my own style and try to bring it to life.
Okay, so it comes out in 2006 and gets booed at Cannes. This was a bold movie to show at Cannes because Coppola decided to have all the actors speak their native English accents, even though historically the royal family would have all spoken in French. The movie also utilizes pop music to modernize the story. Some people liked that choice, and some people thought it was an affront to history.
There are a lot of people at Versailles today.
Yes, there are.
The LA Times, Coppola emphasized her determination to do a historical movie in my style, to make it my own film, something I wanted to see. That is the most important thing, not to fall into the habits of generic period movies, not to get pushed into this is how you should do it. But French people didn't like the fact that some American filmmaker felt that she could present an unconventional take on a pivotal moment in another country's history. Coppola says in Vogue that a few people booed at a press screening, but it was not as dramatic as the headlines made it sound. I think we also got a standing ovation. She thinks they got a standing ovation. Let's see what the film's star, the woman playing Marie Antoinette, has to say. Kirsten Dunst claimed that no one booed at the premiere and that it got a standing ovation. Okay, great, so people liked it. It makes sense for journalists to exaggerate the booing given that they're writing about Sofia Coppola, a director always living under the shadow of her father, the iconic Francis Ford Coppola. After Cannes, the movie is soon released internationally. On the first weekend, it makes a devastating $5.3 million. The film's budget was $40 million. Eventually, over time, the film made back what it spent, but it is neither a commercial success nor necessarily a flop. Reviews were polarized. No one knew what to think. Many critics wrote about the film negatively, but the legendary critic Roger Ebert stirred the pot. He gave it 4 stars, the highest praise you can give on his film criticism website, rogerebert.com. He loved the film. He praises it for its reinvention of the Marie Antoinette story. This is the same guy who gave Fight Club, part of IMDb's top 20 movies of all time, a 2-star review. He didn't like it, saying that Fight Club is a thrill ride masquerading as philosophy. The kind of ride where some people puke and others can't wait to get on again. But he absolutely adored Marie Antoinette. 4 stars. This was a catalyst of sorts. More critics started seeing the movie and writing their own reviews. Everyone was so polarized. How is it possible that one critic could give the film a perfect score while another could hate it completely? Eventually, New York Times' own iconic film critic A.O. Scott wrote an article about the film saying that Miss Coppola ignores what's best about Marie Antoinette's story. There are some elements he likes, but ultimately his review is set in the middle. Average movie. He's ambivalent. So many critics after A.O. Scott and Roger Ebert are ambivalent. As of now, it has a 57% on the tomato meter. The ratings are still polarized. Michael Smith from Tulsa World says it's nearly impossible to find anyone in the film who has a heart, that all the characters are one-dimensional and unmemorable. Someone on IMDb says the acting was horrible and the story was boring. There's some pretty scathing stuff on there. On the other hand, opposite reviews can still exist. For me, the film never dragged or bogged down. That Coppola creates living, breathing human beings. A top critic from the Rolling Stone said that Coppola creates a luscious world to get lost in. It's clear that no one knows what to think. Some critics even make it out to be better than Coppola's Lost in Translation, which is often marked as her best film, getting a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. Ultimately, if you look hard enough on IMDb, you will find two completely contradictory takes on Marie Antoinette, much like any film. There's a bombardment of information, of opinions on the internet. It's about personal taste, and everybody has a different subjective experience with a piece of art. Coppola blames this polarized view of the film on the marketing, that it didn't find its way to a young girl audience. This could be partially true. At the same time, it could be posited that the film didn't find its way to any one audience. The reason it's so polarized is because it cast too wide a net. There are Kirsten Dunst fans. There are also Jamie Dornan fans who are annoyed he wasn't in the movie for longer. There are period piece gurus who are disappointed by the historical inaccuracies and the soundtrack. For some people, the characters are not developed enough because they like intense dramas, and for light comedy lovers, they're developed perfectly. Ultimately, you can't please everyone. You have to focus a story with an audience in mind. That way you'll know what shape the film will take. The films that know their audiences are the films that do well. A focused audience results in a more focused set of reviews, meaning a smaller spread of opinions. A movie for everyone results in a large spread of reviews, ranging from 0 to 5 to 5 out of 5, and you end up with a mean somewhere in the middle. This is what happened to Marie Antoinette. Superhero movies are a good test of this theory. They follow a formula, and they over and over again rake in millions of dollars and score highly on Rotten Tomatoes. They understand what their audience wants: crazy action, comedy, high stakes, escapism. Superhero movies get a fairly focused spread of reviews, and they tend to do extremely well at the box office. Sofia Coppola made the film for herself. She even admits that it's a passion project. As a result, the film was not made with any one audience in mind. It's not clear who is meant to appreciate it. Marie Antoinette is a cautionary tale on the perils of not understanding your audience. Sofia Coppola thought she could get away with it because of the success of Lost in Translation and her namesake. She thinks of herself as an auteur filmmaker, but she isn't yet. Her autorial style isn't able to carry a film the way it can for a Baz Luhrmann or Coen Brothers production, for instance. Ironically, it parallels the film's eponymous queen. Antoinette didn't understand the French people, she was out of touch, and she was beheaded. Not only has she always been part of the Hollywood elite, but Sofia Coppola is similarly out of touch. History buffs would have liked a true period piece. Teens would have wanted it to have a Jamie Dornan sex scene. The average moviegoer doesn't know what to think. All they might have expected was a beheading, and they didn't get it. As a result, the movie did poorly. People were split because everyone was talking at once, and Sofia Coppola was metaphorically beheaded. After the release of the polarized Marie Antoinette, it took Coppola over 10 years to make a movie that earned above 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like Marie Antoinette being stuck in the French royal family and in her marriage to Louis XVI, Coppola is stuck in the movie business. All her siblings work in film. She is forced to live up to Francis Ford Coppola's success, and she can't leave until she does.